Hey, my kitchen peeps, Maggie is back. We are going to do what is probably going to be the last of my series on pastas. No, I'm kidding. It wasn't a series, it just turned out that way. But it is going to be a pasta dish today. Let me turn this around a little bit. I don't know why I'm showing the whole other side of my kitchen. But anyway, we're going to do something. I have served this at the restaurant. It's a little different. The first time I made it, I thought, I'm not so sure about this one, but it really is good. It's good. It's called greens and beans pasta, right? It's kind of a weird name, but it's really good. And it's a full meal. It's got meat in it. It's not just a side dish. But we have got some ground pork that I mixed with the spicy sausage seasoning blend, as we've talked about before. I don't buy seasoned pork. I season it myself because I make my own seasoning, so that way I know what's in it. Ta-da, good stuff. We've got some organic cannellini beans, yay. We have a big pile of chard out of my garden. I know y'all are probably sick of me cooking with chard, but you can use chard, kale, spinach, really kind of any greens you want in this dish. I have chard, so I'm using chard. Trilogy, of course, some white wine. I've got a little bit, y'all are gonna laugh. It's more of a blush. Don't care, I'm gonna use it. I've done it before, it works just fine. A little bit of Parmesan cheese. I'm a little bit short, so I'm gonna add in some of my Violife dairy-free in with my really amazing organic dairy, and it'll be great because I'm just a little bit short. So I'm just gonna mix them together. Nobody cares. It'll all taste good. Fusilli pasta, gluten-free, Jovial brand, the best. A few seasonings, and it'll all come together. Another easy and tasty and great dish. So we'll get started on this. I'll turn the camera down. We're gonna do like we've done before. I'm gonna prep everything up to the point of the pasta. Stop. My hubs is gone driving his school bus. When he gets home, I'll cook the pasta, bring it together, and bam, we'll eat. And it'll be yummy. And I'm probably gonna make another one of those pasta house salads tonight. I don't know if y'all have tried that yet, but dadgum, it's good. I ate a whole bunch of the last batch I made, so I think I'm gonna make it again because like I mentioned before, something about that salad with pasta is just really good to me. It's probably all in my head from eating at the place in St. Louis so many times, especially when I was pregnant, which was not a good idea because I could pack it away. But anyway, we won't talk about all that. So I'm gonna turn the camera down and we will get started. First thing, ooh, that's a little close. Sorry about that. Nobody wants to see that. All right, ooh, let's see, can I turn? Can you see that? Is that good? Yeah, pretty good. So the first thing we want to do is heat up a couple tablespoons of oil. And yes, I have bacon grease in there with some of the little pieces of bacon. It's all fine and good. I dropped my towel. Let me pick that up. So we'll get our grease heating up. And one thing, actually the first step you would do is mix your pound of ground pork with 1 to 2 tablespoons of the spicy sausage seasoning. I did that early this morning just because the longer it sits, the better it is. So ta-da, that step's done. So now we're gonna heat our oil. We're gonna add some Trilogy and a little bit of garlic powder. And I tell you what, I also cheated a little bit because I had a 1/4 cup of Trilogy left in this jar. So I just scooped a 1/4 cup out of my other big jar into here to save a little bit of time. I'm putting liquid and all because that little bit of onion, celery, garlic liquid is good stuff. So we're gonna get that in here and let it start cooking. Y'all, it's funny. Well, it's funny to me. You know, for those of you know that know me, my name is Dana. My grandma name is Maggie. And when I started this cooking series, I decided to just kind of do it under my grandma name, just, I don't know, for whatever reason, because I think people tend to think of their grandmas as really good cooks, and grandma always made stuff from scratch, and grandma, you know, that kind of thing. So I thought, well, I'm gonna go with my grandma name, because I want them to think about cooking from scratch, cooking at home, that kind of stuff. Well, I had somebody ask me the other day, came into the restaurant and asked me what my name is. And their eyes are all big. I've been watching your video and you said Maggie and I've been calling you Dana all this time and I'm so sorry if I called you the wrong name. I felt really bad for them. I was like, no, let me explain. So I did. I'll answer just about anything, so it was all fine. But I thought, oh, I guess if you didn't come on to one of the early videos where I explained that, it's probably a little weird if you know my given name. But anywho, all right, so we're going to cook our trilogy and put in a couple teaspoons of garlic powder. I like some garlic, so this is all good with me. So 1 and 2. So that's going to go in. We're just going to cook our trilogy down just, I don't know, a couple minutes just to let it get soft. And I'll tell you, when you mix seasonings in, especially the powders like garlic powder, onion powder, that type of thing, it'll tend to, see like that, it's a little lump. It'll tend to lump up if you don't stir it pretty quickly. And even if you do stir it quickly, sometimes it'll still tend to just kind of lump, turn into a little lump. You want to look for those and make sure you stir them in real good, because you don't want little lumps of onion or garlic powder in your food. Somebody bite into that and they're going to get a shocker. All right. Yum, this smells good. And doing this in bacon grease just gives it a whole nother level of fabulous flavor. All right, I'm going to put my lid back on my garlic powder. I like garlic powder, can you tell? I have an entire quart jar full. All right, set that off to the side. And then from here, we're going to add our sausage and we'll brown it. I won't make you watch that whole thing because that's, you know, kind of slow and boring, and I'm not that entertaining with stories, so I will not sit here and talk to you for, you know, 6 to 8 minutes or whatever time it takes. But this is one of those, if you prepped at home, like you're going to cook on the road, if you prepped ahead, you could measure your trilogy and put your garlic powder, stick it to the side, have your meat thawed with your seasoning in it. That would be ready to go. I wouldn't bother measuring out my wine. That's a single step. I really, like we've talked about before, I look for any steps in my recipe that either involve, you know, a good bit of prep or are multiple ingredients that I can measure out and mix together. So, all right, we've been a couple of minutes. I'm going to get my sausage in here. There we go. And break this up. But anyway, back to that. So I wouldn't necessarily measure out a cup of wine. I mean, that's not that hard to do, and that is a single step. You could shred your cheese if you have block cheese, have that measured and ready. There's another step of some additional seasoning, salt, pepper, red pepper flakes. You could have that ready. Definitely have your chard prepped if you're using spinach. No prep really to do there. So, I mean, you can do all of those things and have them in little labeled containers stuck in your fridge. And when you get home after work or a busy day, whatever it is you're doing, or ball games, then it's seriously just a matter of dumping it all together. And it's super, super simple. I mean, it's not hard to begin with, but it's even more simple then. All right, I'm going to pause while this cooks, and then I'm going to go ahead and prep the chard, and I'll tell you, I'm going to do it just like I've done before. This is all out of our garden. I'm so excited. I'm just going to lay it out like this, cut it long ways, and then cut it across like that. I cut the loose stem out off, but I'm not going to worry about, I'm sorry, I've got this all up here. I'm not going to worry about cutting this out. It's no big deal. And I'll just run down and cut it into, you know, squares that would be kind of the same size as spinach. And chard doesn't cook down quite as much as spinach, which is one thing I like about it. Spinach can tend to disappear. So anywho, I will do that while this is browning, and then once it's done, we're going to add the wine and go to a few other steps. But hang loose, and when you come back, we'll have beautiful browned sausage, and we'll move to the next step. So hang tight. Okay, so sausage is nice and browned, and here's another little thing I'll mention. Make sure when you're browning sausage or ground beef or whatever for this type of dish that you break your sausage up if that's the way you like it. I prefer mine broken up. I mean, I don't want it minced with a spoon where it's like cornmeal, but I don't want big chunks like I'm biting into a meatball either, because when I'm eating a dish like this, I like to, you know, have a little bit of the greens and the beans and the meat and the pasta all together, and not just a big old bite of pasta or a big old bite of sausage or a bit, you know, whatever. So just, you know, as I say always, it's your kitchen, do whatever you want to do, but that's just a little tip about the way I like to do it. So take it for what it's worth. All right, that's nice and browned. Now we're going to add our white wine, aka blush. You know, I'm not going to get too worried. And now this, I don't even like wine. I don't drink wine. I only ever have it because I cook with it. But there is just something about the smell when it's cooking that I really like. I don't like to drink it, but I sure enough will cook with it. So anyway, so now we're going to have this on high, and we're going to cook it, you know, just kind of let the wine cook down, so probably about 8 minutes. I'm going to set my timer and let this do its thing. And while that's happening, I need to drain and rinse my beans. So I've got a can of organic Cannellini beans. I'm going to drain these, rinse them real good, and let them be, you know, let the water run off. I've cut up my chard. Maybe you can see. See? Ta-da! There's all the chard. Whoops. So if I can do it without tearing everything up, set that down there. It also calls for basil, and yes, I just went and cut some fresh basil out of the garden. Look at that. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. So I'm going to use fresh. I've cooked it 100 times with dried. So if you don't have fresh, it's fine. Dry basil works great. I'm just using my fresh because it's what I got. So we'll let this cook down, and then we'll come back, add in some more of those seasonings, and then at that point it's really just kind of a dump everything together and get it all mixed up. Then you pause and do the pasta, but we're just going to pause until the hubs is home. So hang tight. Okay, we are back. I cut up the basil, I drained the beans, threw a couple little, whoop, there we go. That is the end of our 8 minutes to cook the wine down. So now we're going to throw in a teaspoon of salt. I've got to kind of chop my salt not off. Throw in a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and quarter teaspoon of red pepper flakes. And this dish is not hot. It's got a little tiny kick to it, but it's not real hot. And I'm not I like hot and spicy stuff. So, and I like this a lot. But if that seems too much, leave out the red pepper flakes or back down on the spicy sausage seasoning when you mix it in with your ground pork. Or for that matter, you could try an Italian sausage seasoning blend. If you're like, I don't want any spice, do that. Your kitchen, do what you like. Okay, so got our seasonings kind of mixed in there. Now we're going to add our beans. They've been drained and rinsed. And it's just a 15-ounce can of Cannellini beans. This would be super good if you made a big pot of white beans and had some left over. Stick it in your freezer in little 2-cup measures. Then grab one of those. Dump that in there. But we're going to do our beans, our greens, and this is, it's just 8 ounces of chard. I know it looks like a ton, but as is with most greens, as the heat hits it, it's going to cook down. So I'm going to toss it around a little bit and get it where it starts wilting down some. Turn my heat up just a little bit. It feels like it's off, but I know it's not. Whoops. Well, look at that. Didn't cut that very good. Whoop, there it is down there. It's kind of a big piece of a stem, too. I'm going to pull that joker out. But you're just going to mix this around. And then we want our basil. Oh, I'm so excited. Cut up our fresh basil straight out of the herb garden. It's just a couple tablespoons. I put a little extra because I like basil. And because I had extra and because I just wanted to. Then you got a half a cup of Parmesan. And remember, I've got, you can kind of see the difference in the color. I've got some dairy and some dairy free, and that's all good. It tastes really good. And then 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to use real butter because I have it. I like it a lot. If you are using dairy free, that's great. Go for that. Earth Balance soy free is a really good one. I've used that for several years. I still use it in the restaurant, so, you know, it's all good. I mean, this looks good already. I could just sit down and eat it just like this without the pasta. But the pasta's really tasty. Okay, so let me get my butter. Throw that in. Oops. Here's some. It calls for 2 tablespoons. So I'm going to throw 2 tablespoons in. And my son just came home and I just made a mess. Yay. 2 eyeball tablespoons. And he's looking in here like I'm talking to myself. Ah! That gum. Well, that didn't work out at all. This butter is so soft. Okay. Hello. So we're just going to mix this around real good. And then I'm going to get it stirred up real good and then just turn it off. Stick a lid on it or probably put my pizza pan on it because I don't have a lid for this pan. And let it sit here with no heat on it and just let the pasta, or the, not the pasta, the chard kind of wilt, you know, on the leftover heat from this part. And then the hubs will be home, I don't know, maybe in an hour. And I'll cook the pasta and then it all gets mixed together. And then you chow. And one thing I'll tell you, when you cook your pasta, when you drain it, reserve a couple of not tablespoons, good Lord, a couple of cups. I always just pull a couple of cups to the side because if it seems like it's getting a little dry, you can add some of that pasta water to it and it'll help, you know, give it a little more moisture. Ooh, yay, this looks good. And, you know, just you're adding some of the starch back in there from the pasta and it just gives it a good texture without watering it down with just plain water. Ooh, God, that looks good. So, I'm going to cut this baby off, and I'm going to stop our video, and we'll pick back up when the pasta is going. Or actually, when I'm ready to mix in the pasta, I'll just pick it up at that point, because it's literally boiling water and pulling the pasta in and then draining it. I don't guess y'all need to watch me do that. I'm sure you've done that a million times. Doesn't that look tasty? Yowzer. Okay, we'll be back in a little while and we'll pick up and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. All right, peeps, here we are. Let's see if I can move that over a little bit where you can see a little better. This is greens and beans pasta. Look at that. Doesn't that look yummy? Oh my gosh. So the recipe called for 10 ounces of fusilli, like a ding dong. I dumped 12 ounces in here, just dumped the box, wasn't even thinking to check. Actually, I was thinking the box was 9 ounces, so I didn't look. And then after I got done, it was like, oh, it's 12. So this has probably a little more pasta than you would want, which is not the end of the world, but just FYI on that. So in the recipe online, I'm going to put the true number. But there it is. Y'all, it's really good. And it's got, excuse me, you got your good meat and protein and beans and seasonings and some carbs and some green veggies. So you got a little of all the good stuff. And then look at that. Boom, there's my salad. Just got to wait. That's my salad dressing. I had it in the refrigerator, so my olive oil kind of set up. So I'm letting it warm up a little bit. And we're fixing to pig out. So there you go. Oh, let me flip this up. Greens, ooh, wow. Greens and beans pasta. It's awesome. Give it a shot. Like it, hug it, love it, share it, comment. Tell me if you make it. Let me know what you think. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you on the next video.